In this lesson, we're going to talk about the commutative property. The commutative property works with addition. It says that you can add numbers in any order and still come up with the same sum. Now, when I think of commutative, I like to think of the word commute. You can almost see it in this word commutative. I like to think of the word commute because when you think about the word commute, if you commute from home to work, you're driving the same number of miles to work, and when you drive home, you drive the exact same number of miles back home. So it doesn't matter which way you're driving, you're still driving the same number of miles. So that's the same way that the commutative property works in math. It doesn't matter if I'm adding 5 plus 3, which I know is equal to 8, or if I'm adding 3 plus 5, because I'm still going to come up with an answer of 8. So the commutative property says it doesn't matter what order you add the numbers, you're still going to come up with the same answer. So for example, if we have the number 6 plus 8 plus 4, 3 add-ins, I know that I can add these because 6 plus 8 is 14, and then 14 plus 4 is 18. Now, I could also rewrite these numbers in a different order, and I could add 6 plus 4 plus 8. I know 6 plus 4 is 10, and 10 plus 8 is 18. So notice that I got the same answer. It didn't matter which order I used, I still came up with the same sum. Now, why do we have the commutative property? The commutative property is really beneficial because we can add the numbers in any order and still come up with the same answer, which means that when I'm adding usually 2 or more numbers, I can add them in the order that's most beneficial for me to do mental math. So for example here, I knew that 6 plus 4 was 10. Anytime I use 10 in math, it's an easy number. 10 plus 8 is 18. So it's easier to add 6 plus 8 and then add 8 than it is to do 6 plus 8 is 14 and then 4 more. So this was a real easy problem, but if you had a lot of numbers, it would be easier to group them in a way that made it easier for you to do mental math. And the commutative property says that's okay as long as it's all addition. So the great thing is that the commutative property also works with multiplication, and it works the same exact way. So if I have numbers like 5 times 3, you know that 5 times 3 is 15, but you also know that 3 times 5 is also 15. So again, the commutative property works. So for example, if you're multiplying 2 times 9 times 5, in this order, 2 times 9 is 18. That's pretty easy. But 18 times 5, that takes a little more thinking. The answer ends up being 90. But that 18 times 5, for some people you might have to write that down, or it just might be more difficult to think of mentally. But look what happens if I rewrite it, because I know that 2 times 5 is 10. And that's a lot easier to multiply 10 times 9, which I know automatically is 90. So see how quick and easy it was when I reordered these numbers to make that 10. 2 times 5 is 10. Made it so much easier. And that's why we have the commutative property. So again, the commutative property says that you can multiply or add numbers in any order and still come up with the same product. So the main thing that you have to remember is that the commutative property only works with addition and multiplication. It does not work with subtraction or division. And you might say, well, why is that? Well, just do a sample problem and see. If I have the problem, let's say 10 minus 4, I know 10 minus 4 is 6. But what happens when I take 4 and I try to take away 10? Is it possible to have 6 left over? No, of course not. We're going to get a negative number. 6 and negative 6 are not the same number, and therefore we don't end up with the same answer. So it does not work with subtraction, and it also does not work with division. So remember, this only works with addition and multiplication.